Hi, my name is Art Sherwood. I am the David Cole Professor of Entrepreneurship here at Western Washington University. And I'm also the director of the IDEA Institute, and we are really fortunate today to have the CEO and founder of eResources, Dusty Gulleson. And we're going to hear some great stories from him. We're going to hear about his company, his work, and the folks that he serves, as well as how he got to where he has gotten to and where he's going. Welcome, Dusty.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
All right. Well, so starting that out, I'd love to hear what you're doing now. Like,
Sure.
If you could tell us about your company and what you all are up to.
Sure. We've been around for 18 years, and a lot changes. And actually, every year, the technology changes more and more. And what we've really started to be more focused on is where we're really strong in, and that's in data and data analytics, dealing with business intelligence. And right now, more and more companies are able to actually start looking at their data, pull out some key information, and start understanding it from a strategic standpoint. Generally speaking, a lot of that ability to do business intelligence was, the purview of the bigger companies that had a lot of money, the Googles, the Facebooks, and such, and big corporations. But now there's a plethora of tools coming out into the market that are allowing folks to start saying, "Oh, I want to go look at my data now," and start building some strategic stories about where we're going as a company, what we're trying to do. So we're helping companies understand their information more and more.
So let me follow up with that. What's business intelligence?
So business intelligence is basically understanding your business more, looking at the data, looking at the cause and effects. A lot of organizations are, for instance, an association that we're doing some work with right now. They have tons and tons of continuing education credits that they're doing, and they've been doing it year over year over year. But they start to see something dipping, and they don't know why. Why are things dipping in this one market? We don't understand what's going on here. And a lot of it's anecdotal. And what business intelligence allows you to do is to take that anecdotal, that hint that there's something wrong, and start getting some objective data that will start bearing out witness to what really is the problem. And it's usually looking further down under the surface, collating data that would be not necessarily in one silo by itself, but in multiple different parts around the company, kind of marrying them together and understanding the process.
So who are your customers? What kind of folks are you serving?
So our customers run the gamut, really. We've been a vendor to Google for over 10 years now. Stanford University, PG&E, McGraw-Hill, Data Recognition Corp.
I see.
A lot of higher ed, including Stanford, but UC Davis, Rutgers. And then in the association world, organizations like American Welding Society and Society of Women Engineers and such along those lines. And then all across the spectrum there, depending on where you want. So we have clients from Washington to Florida to Texas to New York.
So what is it that your company actually does for those customers?
So we really have 4 divisions in our company.
Okay.
The BIs were really headed down.
The business intelligence.
Yeah, on our software side. So we have a software digital team where we build custom web applications, software to actually look into data, but also to actually represent content in a presentation layer for like a website or mobile, taking big disparate content pieces. We build big content management systems, or we integrate enterprise content management systems for that, like a Sitecore.
So content management, what's that exactly mean?
So content management is, most websites right now are running on a content management system where you put in your data, be it a web page, be it a blog.
I see.
That's a simple level. Further on beyond that, you have e-commerce that manages the content and the relationship between the people that are buying things, their history, how that content is used, how it's disseminated, integrated with social media, how people can analyze that content through analytics. So content management, anything relating to the content of an organization.
I see, okay.
And a lot of organizations are content-based, and more we are becoming content-based. So you'll hear more and more about content marketing and personalization. It's all around that world of content, and right below it is the data where the BI works.
Got it.
So that's our software and digital. We have an IT infrastructure division called IT On Demand, and we do infrastructure as a service. So we'll come into an organization that 50, 100 people, and we'll actually put in all brand new computers, switches, networking gear, hosting things in the VMware. So you don't have to own a computer anymore as an organization.
Right.
It's becoming passe to, oh, now we have to buy another computer every 3 years. We just make it part of a commodity that an organization will use.
So how does that work? So they don't have the hardware anymore, or?
Well, they don't own it anymore.
They don't own it.
They
I
pay
see.
a flat rate every month, and we manage their help desks, we manage their computers. They never have to pay for any kind of warranties.
So are they kind of outsourcing their IT?
They're outsourcing everything.
I see. Okay.
And IT is rapidly becoming commoditized.
I see.
Just like you have an HVAC system in your building, air conditioning system.
Right.
IT is kind of just part and parcel of the fabric of a business now. It's not something that's in its own little unique. Now you have lines of business software out there that are specific to a business that would be outside that purview. But the general, the roads and bridges of an organization, it just becomes part of that.
So do you find your customers are, like we think about IT, but there's also management information systems.
Mm-hmm.
Are they maintaining that inside still, and then just learning how to use the data that's there and get it to the decision makers, or what's going on inside the companies with your customers?
So yeah, really when we integrate with a client, if they use our full stack of services from the software all the way to the infrastructure
Right.
side, the infrastructure side is very straightforward. It deals with hard metal.
Yep.
It deals with the software, the licensing,
the
stuff that makes it go. There is a water's edge where you start having lines of business software, be it enterprise content management system like a Sitecore, or you're using Microsoft Power BI for business intelligence, data mining, SSRS, SSIS, stuff like that. And at that water's edge, the IT people have to make sure that they're creating the capacity and the bandwidth to do that. Mm-hmm. The software side and the digital side takes over at that point and actually works with our clients to help them understand their information. And the first part in understanding their information is to kind of take a step back. A lot of organizations want to just dive in and go, tell me what's wrong.
Right.
And that's really a bad place to start. It's very reactional. It's a reactionary approach. And you tend to get bad data that way because you're just, it's symptomatic stuff that you're really dealing with. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to solve a symptomatic problem. You want to solve the root problem. So we have our organizations step back and say, let's work from a inside-out kind of model, very Simon Sinek. We apply that same model to our discovery. So we have our clients walk through discovery.
Could you explain that model a little bit? Maybe the folks that
Sure. So Simon Sinek has a great TED Talk. Mm-hmm. I really like it, where he talks about a lot of organizations sell their features and benefits.
Right.
And they're talking to you about features and benefits, and you're just getting bombarded with that day in and day out. And there's no kind of interaction, there's no kind of engagement on that.
Right.
He said what people really want is to know your why, how, and then your what. Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, the what kind of materializes on its own. So working from the inside out. So we're applying that model to a company.
I see.
We'll say to a company, hey, before we actually do anything with your data, understand the business intelligence around it and tackle some of these symptoms, we need you to understand why you are in business.
Right.
Let's revisit that. And they're like, well, of course we know why. I know. Let's just say,
right.
Let's talk about that, because that's going to be our model that we're going to work from before we ask questions. Mm-hmm. The whys always have to be, when you ask a question, why is this a problem? Well, it has to correlate to who you are and what's your core.
So let's go into the strategic level, really.
Yeah, and business intelligence, when used correctly, is a strategic tool. It's not a tactical. Yes, you can find breaks in a process, right, and things like that with the business intelligence. But really, on a strategic level, you want to know your why, and then we go into there. How do you do this why? Mm-hmm. What are your processes to that there? And then it breaks down into the what. Once we have that becomes a framework we set over an organization and say, okay, now let's solve these problems. You say you have a symptom here. Well, the first question is, this problem you have, is it part of what you're really doing? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how this exercise really helps streamline an organization internally. And on a tangent on that, you're seeing a lot more, digital agencies, people dealing in software and stuff, having to do a lot more business consulting and a lot more strategic consulting on that level. Back in the late 90s, a lot of bigger agencies out there, the advertising agencies would buy up digital agencies because it was in marketing.
Right.
What you're seeing now is a lot of business consulting firms like Deloitte and Accenture buying up digital agencies for the business consulting side, because the
interesting.
merger
Right.
of that digital and the data is now no longer about look and feel. It's about what, at the end of the day, what's underneath the business. So it's a very interesting world to be part of, and it's fun because you get to really scratch the surface. And
So with that, you have some ideas related to telling stories. I'd love to
Absolutely.
hear some more about that.
Yeah, on the walkover, I was talking about how, I learned a hard lesson over the last 18 years that I would, go, talk to me in bullet points. That'd be
Right.
the joke, my staff would say, we're going to make a shirt for you that says that. Because, if you write me a long email, I
bullet
probably
point
won't read
shirt.
it,
Right.
But I was wrong on that, because really, bullet points are great for making me feel good.
Right.
But it doesn't actually reveal real good data. It might reveal data I want to hear, and data that's pertinent to a quick decision for a team member or for a client. But it's in that narrative that really the true value is found. And so we find that when we talk to a client, we want them to build a story around what they're doing.
I see.
Tell us why you do it, and then tell us a story. So we do a lot of user personas, a lot of interviews with their clients, with their customers.
Could you tell us what what a user persona is? And
So user persona, basically when you have a company and you're selling a service, you want to know who that person is that you're selling. So you want to build a persona set. So you might have 3, 4, if you're highly targeted, you might have 5 or 10. And the reason why you want to look at those personas is, first fold, are these people really in our market space? So we'll interview the company and they'll say, these are the people that we're marketing to. This is our audience.
it's basically saying this is the customer.
Correct.
Here's the
and then you
person.
segment it. The
Right.
personas are segmented to, persona 1. This person has this pain point. This person then has this need.
Right.
And this is the solution they're looking at. This is their expectation
Right.
set. And you go on and on. And then what you want to do then is then interview the customers
Yes.
and see if those personas actually line up.
Right. Yep.
And invariably, what happens is a client finds out they've been spending a ton of money selling to persona 1 and 2, marketing, but there's none of them that really exist.
Right.
What they were really buying was persona 3,
Right.
and it was bleeding over. So it's a really fun exercise for both the client and the customer to kind of see, oh, I didn't know that they did that. But what you want to do once you have those personas and you've nailed those down, you want to build a story about how the company interacts with that persona.
Right.
And we look for a customer journey is basically what we're looking for. So it's one thing to sell, lemonade one time to one person, but you want to actually sell lemonade multiple times, and you want to have a relationship.
Right.
And so you want to build a story. And how do we build that relationship? Understanding what their story is, what they value,
Right.
and then you be able to weave your story into their story. So we talk a lot about once you know your persona, once you know the customer journey, they're going to buy lemonade, we could sell them strawberry lemonade, or we could sell them, a cookie with it. Let's map out that customer journey, and then let's figure out how we can weave our story into their life story. You'll see that in a lot of great brands out there, great products that they figure out. It's not the feature and benefit. One of my favorites is Subaru. It's a great car commercial, but you really never know about its crash rating.
Right.
But you do know about love, and
Yeah.
you do know about going to the beach with the dog, and the life relationship. There's that one.
Yeah, they sold me. I have one. So there you
Exactly.
go. Yeah.
Hey, So things like that we try to really get to, and so there's a lot of understanding of organizations, why, their story, their history, their values. We map that out, and then when we finally get to, once we have all this in front of us, that's a matrix by which we look at all their data and start saying, okay, all your data shows us that you're not doing a good job here. It's breaking here because it's not meeting your stories that you want. Or your data is showing us that you've drifted so far from when you started selling lemonade, but you didn't realize you became a cookie company because those cookies you were selling on the side are really taking over, and that's why people are coming to you.
Yeah.
So that's business intelligence.
Do you find people are surprised that this is what you do?
Yeah, my wife still doesn't know what I do. It's every so often we'll go to dinner party. Can you explain again what we do? Yeah.
Like if they look at eResources, okay, here's someone's going to help me with some data stuff, and now we're talking about user personas and stories. Do you think do customers come to you for how they're coming to you for what, and then they find out you've got this whole.
Yeah, well, we use story selling too.
Right.
We use story in every part, from discovery to selling. So part of our story selling strategy is customer comes to us and they heard you did something with Stanford. We sell that over there, and 95% of all our business is referral.
Right.
We don't really do much marketing at all, if anything. And so they'll come and they'll say, hey, we saw that you did this at Stanford, and I don't jump in and say, and we could do this, this, and this, and this, because you'll immediately lose the sale, generally speaking. And we just want to listen. And we use a lot of, how do you do this? Or how are you doing this now? We never ask why yet.
Right.
It's too confrontational.
Right.
You put someone on their heels when you ask a why question. But we say, you want to do this? How are you doing it now? How are these problems affecting you? How are they affecting your clients? What are your clients saying to you? What are your staff saying to you? And we basically create a persona of that client, which tells us their pain points, their expectations, their perceptions. And once we have that story, we weave our story right back into it. And we go, would it be beneficial if we could, relieve this pressure here or that? Oh, yeah, that would be beneficial. And would it be? So we kind of just have that conversation.
Right.
And once you can do a story type selling strategy and weave it together, it's incredibly strong, and it's better for a client relationship because you understand their culture, because you can build the best software in the world. If your culture doesn't adapt to it, it's garbage.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of those same things that you're talking about there are things that we teach to our undergraduate students in our entrepreneurship classes, right? Let's build some deep empathy and understanding of our customers, and then let's go talk to them. Actually, go talk to them, and so that's really interesting that you're doing that with big, large existing companies as well, right?
You hit on empathy. It's interesting. I hear that bandied around lately more and more. What's really empathetic with that client really connects to. And we try to not use the word client as much, but in this setting we do. We see them as a partner, and you want to enter into their pain. That's the true definition of empathy. It's not feeling sorry for them. It's not feeling bad, but you want to experience their pain. So we've actually had staff that would sit alongside members and document their process and commiserate with them and talk about it. So. I think it's 100% necessary when you're pitching a client that before you sell them anything, that you understand them, and you have to understand their pain first.
Yeah, really good, really good. So I'd love to hear, where did this all start?
Well, it was a consulting gig that got out of hand back in 1999.
Oh yeah? What's that story?
I was working for another company, and I didn't like working for them, and I said, I want to do something else. And I was 23, going to be 24, just got married, just moved to DC. All the great, conditions to start a company, and had no money.
Yeah, perfect.
It's great, and I got a job waiting tables at night down in Alexandria, Virginia, and so I'd work from 4 to 2 in the morning, and then come home and figure out a business.
Yeah.
And I stumbled upon, I understood how databases were structured from high school, and I was into computers for a lot.
I see.
But never really earned any money from that. I actually have a history degree from George Mason University.
Oh yeah, they didn't teach a lot of computer science.
No, not a lot of computers in history.
Yeah, it's true.
It's pretty recent.
It's pretty short, yeah.
Exactly. Charles Babbage's, and that's it. So I figured out one thing, met someone through our church that we were at, and they said, hey, we have this problem. I said, that's an interesting problem. And I just always enjoy solving problems. It's really where, people come to me with interesting things I like to tackle, and it's part of our problem. That's why we've grown. We're 110 employees globally now. Yeah. And we have 4 business units, and we're not very focused. We're very good at a lot of things, and we're focused in those areas, but it's part and parcel because I just love solving problems.
Got it. Yep.
So yeah, that's how it started, and kind of mushroomed.
Yeah.
One thing led to another, and then the next thing you know, you have 4 offices and 110 employees. And
your headquarters are here in Bellingham, right?
Actually, we're headquartered. We just acquired a company a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Down in Florida, and we moved our corporate headquarters to Florida.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So you get to Florida often?
I do.
Okay.
Whenever it starts to rain a little bit,
Where in Florida?
It's north of Orlando, called Ocala, little town up there.
I actually know where that is. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Really good.
The horse capital of the world.
There you go. So where do you what do you see as the problems in the future that you will be addressing and trying to solve via your company or other ways?
Yeah.
What's interesting in the future?
We're really over 18 years we've evolved and done a lot of things. And really this year we've kind of done a lot of introspection. We started in November of last year, October. We hired an outside management consulting firm.
Oh.
I used to run our management meetings, and we found out that when you run your management meetings, you just do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And you don't get the best kind of information. So we hired an outside consulting firm, and they've come alongside us and really helped us kind of flesh out. You're really talented, you do all these things, you have all these clients. What do you want to do for the next 20 years? Mm-hmm. I'm 43, I probably, hopefully have a good 40 left. So you start looking at the future, and from a technology standpoint, from the business, I love what I do. I love solving problems. And the future, I think, really is going into this data and really helping people see their stories in action and real objective data to back up what's going on, and being able to articulate it and being able to measure it better. Not just in lag measurements, because that's what a P&L is, just pure lag, but being able to get some lead measures in there, kind of like on a 4DX model, where you can
start out in front of things.
Get out in front of things, so you know ahead of time what levers you can pull to make your business grow, or your association, or your nonprofit, or your donations, everything along those lines. And data is becoming so big. I know it sounds such a...
Meaning there's a lot of it.
It's a plethora.
Yeah.
I mean, we build data warehouses now that are combining third-party data, and it's just massive amounts of data. But you can have all the data in the world. If you don't know why you have that data and you don't know how to understand that data, you're just been spending a lot of money and spinning a lot of wheels, and you'll be reacting. Mm-hmm. Something might bubble up, and it truly might be a problem in your organization. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, there's a lot of different factors that are impacting that. And so I think I know the future for eResources is really becoming a market leader and marrying not just the technology of business intelligence, BI tools and such, but also the consulting of helping companies reposition themselves to a story-based model of how they interact with themselves, with their employees, with the clients, and using that instead of a top-down, here's our products, here's our features, and pushing it down to people. And you look at all the successful companies, they've been doing it for a long time. Some of them not even knowing they're doing it, some of them do knowing they're doing it.
Right. So we have a lot of students, like in our College of Business and Economics, we have a lot of students that'll very likely go to work for companies that obviously are going to have a lot of data. In our programs with entrepreneurship and innovation, we have a lot of folks that might have history majors and no money and so on. I wonder if you're reflecting back, if you've got, if we're going to go and interact with some students here a little bit later, they're probably going to ask hey, what sort of advice would you give me? What sort of things might you pass along? Yeah,
actually, when I was doing the talk for later on today, talking about story strategy, I ended with, how does this apply to you? You don't have a business right now. You might not go into business. Who knows?
Right.
But at the end of the day, everyone has a story. And one of my regrets looking back in my life is, and I just recently did what they call a life plan from this management consulting firm, where they literally take your life and over a 2-day period they map it out. It's fascinating.
A life coach, man. That sounds interesting.
It was a life coach, but it was a life plan. They end up giving you this dashboard to look at what you value and how you value to the highlights. And when I did that, I looked back, and one of the critical junctures where I rated a negative experience in my life that had a negative effect was in high school. My parents got me a great education, fantastic education. I lived overseas and went to an international school, but they never really pressed college on me.
Oh, interesting.
They just allowed me to kind of figure it out. But it's not that college was the problem, that I didn't go to college immediately, because I finished in 2005. But it was the matter of, I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know my own story.
Right.
And looking at that life plan, which I did in recently, you look back on your life and you go, man, if I had just kind of understood who I was, if I had done a life plan a lot earlier in my life and really understood my values, what really made me tick, what the things that made me sing at night, I'd be in a far better place. And going back to Simon Sinek, know your why. Yeah. Know what are your passions?
Right.
And you don't have to make millions of dollars. In fact, I'm not really driven by money. I'm driven by solving problems. But know what really makes you tick. Know what your values are, and really establish them and be consistent to them. Craft your story. I think in college, a lot of things when I've observed it, having employed many folks from college, life's happened to a lot of people.
Yeah. And
what happens in that scenario, you get derailed. You can end up becoming a victim and feeling a victim when you don't have to. Craft your story, set your values in motion, and be true to it and consistent with it. And it's not about finding yourself per se, but it's understanding. Take the time to think and be reflective, and take off the headphones, stop watching the screens. Go for a walk. Think, what am I going to do? Because life flies past. And I know it's a cliche. Oh, everyone will just, I remember just wincing at that and be like, I get it. But it does.
It does fly past.
And there's nothing worse than Facebook reminding you, like, 5 years ago your son was just born. Oh no.
And it is relentless. It is relentless, right? 7 years ago, right? I remember when Facebook came out, so all right, well, with that, thanks so much, Dusty. I really appreciate you coming in and speaking with us, and sharing your story and sharing your advice.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, thanks so much, and we will invite you to check out the College of Business and Economics and the Idea Institute online, and thank you very much for joining us.